Hey folks, this is Matt once again, coming at you with another review. Very nice guy on here, Alex, Book Reader 2012. He sent me those James Bond films, which was a lot of stuff. Um, Little thing had happened, and the guy decided to send me something, and granted, he didn't have to. You didn't have to do it, but of course, I didn't say no, and I didn't say. Did this like, hey, I'll get you something out of your Amazon wish list. I'm like, wow, okay. That's cool because I only have a couple stuff on there, and I didn't do an unpackaging because I knew what it was, and I'm very glad. I just want to say you didn't have to do this, but I definitely want to say thank you. It was very kind of you. Thank you. And that is the Scream Factory Blu-ray DVD combo pack of Lifeforce, which I like the cover that they have here. In the blink of an eye, the terror begins, and it is one of those that you can flip the covers, so you have the original, or you can have this, but I just do this because that way you get both. And DVDs have pictures on them. It's a Blu-ray and DVD. And there's quite a bit of features. You have two commentary tracks, one with Tobe Hooper, moderated by Tim Sullivan, and another with a special effects guy. Not John Dykstra, I forget what the guy's name is though. And he's moderated by Michael Felcher. You also have about a 15-minute interview with Mathilda May. You have about I believe a 7-minute interview with Steve Railsback, this guy right there. You have about a 9-minute interview with Tobe Hooper. You have a 20-minute featurette from back in the day on Lifeforce. You have, I think, a teaser and a trailer, TV spot, still gallery, and quite a few features. I mean, granted, I know it's like, well, one's 50, but it's Lifeforce. Lifeforce was a film that was made for the Canon films. Great Canon films. And I mean that literally because there's a lot of Canon films I enjoy. Hell, there's one right fucking back there that I enjoy. I grew up on Canon films. I grew up with them, and I enjoy a lot of their films. Not all of them, like Superman 4, but there's a lot of them I enjoy. And this is after Tobe Hooper had done films like Poltergeist. In fact, during the promotion of the film, they used that Poltergeist a lot. Of course, I know there's a whole thing. Did he really direct Poltergeist or not? But that's not what this is about. This is the start of Tobe Hooper's, I believe it was the start of his 3-picture deal with Canon. Because Tobe Hooper did this film, he did Invaders from Mars, the remake, and he also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And Canon Films, I think at this time, wanted... This came out in 85, and this was in the years, I think Canon really wanted to go into the bid time. They really wanted to go in the bid time. That's why they said, okay, we're going to work with Stallone. Because it was Warner Bros., but it's also the Canon Group. Because Rambo 2 was huge and humongous, $150 million hit in the U.S. So we'll deal with Stallone. We'll work with this studio, Warner Brothers. Help with Canon release it. And we're going to have this film. It's going to be our big, release it in the summer. I think June. At least it's said on the trailer. We're going to release it. And they put a lot of money in this, $25 or so million into the film. And the film did not do well. And Invaders from Mars didn't do well. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I don't know if that did well or not. I think it was released unrated, so probably couldn't make that much money. But yeah, Lifeforce, yeah, Tobe Hooper, 3 pictures, he didn't really do well. And I know I did a video, vlog. I think it was like one of those it's like Vlog with a Vengeance or Pissy Vlog, one of the titles. I mentioned this, and someone, I think it was on that video, someone, I think it was Mike D. Fool. I think he was figuring I was going to rant on this film. And I saw this once a long time ago on VHS. I remember the first time I saw it, I did not care for the film. If you're wondering about the picture quality of the Blu-ray, I'm the last person to ask about that because I think it looks nice, but the thing is, if you go on other websites, they'll tell you differently that the picture quality is a little bit blurry or smeary or they use other, 25-cent words. But I'm the last guy to. I can admit that I'm not good at what's the picture quality, and there's a lot of people better than that. I just thought it looked better. Maybe it's DVD quality. I don't know. I'm sure more people will. You could just look at reviews online, Blu-ray websites that'll tell you the specifics and all that. I know this is anamorphic widescreen, 1080p high def widescreen on the Blu-ray, I should say, and the DVD is anamorphic widescreen, 5.1 sound. That's what it says on there. But I gotta admit, watching this film again, I can't rant on this. I really liked it. It's not perfect. I do have problems with the film. But watching this, I had a lot of fun with this. Even on just as a special effects movie, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It kind of brought me back to, because I didn't grow up with the film. I mean, I only saw the film like once on VHS. It's over there. And I didn't grow up with the film. But watching it again, I just really liked the special effects that worked here. I enjoyed the score, especially by Harry Mancini, who did this score like I think if you see the trailer to this online, I think it's on all. They also put that music in one of the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie trailers. I can't remember if it was Death Warrant or Lionheart. I can't remember which one. It was Death Warrant or Lionheart. I can't remember. I think Death Warrant. I think it was Death Warrant. If you see the trailer to Death Warrant, then they have that music in that, at least at the end of the trailer. I could be wrong though, but I think the trailer to this film, they have the music. Dun, 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 dun. They use it in a couple other movie trailers, but this was I gotta say, I liked this film right off the bat because I thought it was an interesting story, interesting premise, and I never got bored because he has some really good special effects and interesting ideas. Now, again, oh yeah, one other thing about this, it has both the theatrical cut, which is 101 minutes, and the longer director approved cut, which is 116 minutes. And I watched the longer cut, and all the specifics of what is what. If I remember, I'm just going to find like one of those movie censorship. They do one of those where they compare the cuts. I'll just put it down below in the info box. But get to the film itself, I do have problems with the film. Mainly, it's the way the story goes. To me, it gets a little bit too complicated with either its rules or what these space vampires are about. But before I get to that, that's something I really enjoyed is space vampires. You don't meld science fiction and the mythology of vampires into a film is a really interesting idea. And again, John Dykstra and people who worked on Star Wars and Star Trek: The Motion Picture, they worked on this film. I think the DP was a guy who worked on James Bond films. And this is based on a novel called The Space Vampires. And Tobe Hooper, the screenplay was actually worked on by Dan O'Bannon. Yes, Dan O'Bannon himself. I could be wrong, but this might be the film that Tobe Hooper, I think, was going to direct Return of the Living Dead, but then he went on to do this. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely 100% wrong, but I thought that's what I heard in the interview they had with Tobe Hooper here. But it starts out with these astronauts led by Steve Railsback, who's been in Helter Skelter, who was in The Stuntman. I think on the X-Files TV show, I think he was in an episode called Dwayne Barry, who played a guy who had been abducted by aliens, and he's a very paranoid guy. I think it's Dwayne Barry. I could be wrong with that too. I don't do research. Fuck research. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But these astronauts, they go investigate Halley's Comet. And when they go at the tail of Halley's Comet, there's a spaceship. And I gotta say, I really enjoy the special effects. Again, I think because I'm just so tired of the way movies are today and the way movies look today, to go back and this was kind of like watching it for the first time because, again, I had only seen this film once. And it was kind of like watching it for the first time again. And just marveling at I really enjoy the special effects and models, actually using models and model work. And like when they go into the ship, there's like all these. You probably can't see it there, but there's sort of bat-like creature bodies, just practical, floating about in space. And they go further in, and they find these three crystal coffins in a way. You could call them coffins or crystal-like coffins. Two guys and one girl, and of course the girl is Mathilda May, who, yes, she spends most of this film butt naked, titties hanging out, and she looks hot, beautiful, alluring, exotic, uh, but you could tell, I could see first why they cast her. It's setting off that why people would be tempted by her. She just really just imbued that beauty of what this uh, figure would be. I thought, wow, they really got. Every time she was on screen, just caught my eye, and not just her titties and not just her ass, which her titties and ass are, but her face too. And actually, she was a dancer, so she moved with a little bit of elegance. And I liked Mathilda May. I thought granted, she doesn't have a lot of lines and stuff, but she had a certain presence, and yes, she being very, very hot. Literally one of the hottest women I've ever seen in my life. It was pretty damn good. And hell, her being naked for most of the film, I can deal with that for a movie. And then they bring the bodies back to the ship, and then you find out what happens later on, but it cuts to down on Earth in London. Actually, a lot of this film takes place in London, which is kind of an interesting choice. That it doesn't take place in the U.S., doesn't take place in New York or L.A. It actually takes place in London. Yeah, it's sort of an interesting idea for a location. It's not really normal to make it take place in London, an American production like that, especially this kind of film. And I don't mind bits of the supporting cast. You have an older guy played by Frank Finlay. Then you have this guy who I think is part of. I forget what the character's name was. Kane, played by Peter Firth. He did okay, but the Peter Firth character, this character here, who helps in the investigation and trying to find this, girl. I know they went to like Anthony Hopkins and Terrence Stamp and Michael Caine, which I wonder if that's why they named this character Caine or if that was just a coincidence. But Peter Firth did okay, but I really would have liked to have seen what those other actors would have done, like Terrence Stamp or Anthony Hopkins, which is weird because this is dealing with space vampires and he would later be in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Or Terrence Stamp, Michael Caine. I think it would have made it better just because it's those characters. Like Peter Firth is okay, but at the same time he's a little bit bland. A little bit bland. He's not really that memorable. But it jumps a little bit. You find out these three bodies have been taken down to Earth and their coffins, so to speak. And one day Mathilda May wakes up. And I love the way they do this because it's pretty much dealing with the vampire lore. Whereas if sucking blood, they take your life force. So they can grab onto another person. You have this sort of electricity But the way they shot, I mean, I know a lot of people think it looks dated, but I can't help it. I like the way these old special effects look back in the 80s. I really do. They just appeal to me more than they do today. And like Life Force goes from one to the other. And when your life force gets sucked enough, your body decays. It becomes this, not quite bones, but like bones with a little bit of skin on you. And the fact that they did most of these, if you would call them, I don't know if I want to call them. Remember Return Living Dead? If you remember Return Living Dead, that zombie that was on the ground, that was on the table, and she's like, brains, please, it hurts. That zombie, the way she looked, is kind of like what these look, but they're done practically. And I just really liked the way they were done, and the fact that they use a lot of practical effects. I really like that as well. And she escapes, and she's fully naked, and there's some people who try to stop her, fucks them up, fucks up all the glass, gets out of there, and escapes. Uh, and you find out that the victims that she puts in this, she drains their life force. Now they're sort of infected. Yeah, it's kind of like the vampire thing. You get bit, you become one. Here you get a little bit of life force taken away, you become one. And now there are these things that need to feed. Oh, and if they don't feed, or they'll feed and it'll work for a little bit, but they'll come back into that sort of deteriorated, almost mummified sort of state. And you have a scene, I thought I really, again, really give props to special effects. There's a doctor looking at one of the victims, and then he gets up and grabs the doctor and the life force. You see one is sort of forming skin on his face, and the other, the skin is like disappearing, and the other sort of bubbling up. And I like the way it was done. It was way before CGI and stuff, and to me it just looks more interesting. It looks more like, wow, that's pretty fucking cool. Uh, and that's sort of how, I guess I don't want to call it infection, but that's sort of how it can spread. Like, okay, now he's taking this guy's life force, and now this guy is in trouble. And Peter Firth and this older gentleman, among other stuff, have to figure out what they're going to do, what's going on. For example, you have this instance where they find a victim of a woman, and she's trying to struggle, and she blows up into pieces. Her mummified body is trying to struggle. She blows up. This other one is in this cage, and it runs after this guy right here and this older guy, sort of these guys here, and it runs after him, and when it hits the screen, it smashes to pieces and turns into dust falling onto him. And again, it does remind you of the vampire lore, where, how many times have you seen vampire films where they die, they blow up, or, they turn the dust and it flies into the characters, and only this is done with a science fiction sort of stamp on it, and I like that idea, and I like the special effects. So sooner or later they bring in Steve Railsback, who was part of the crew, and you find out what happened, that when they took them back, someone let her out, and something happened. The radio equipment was fucked up, so they couldn't contact Earth. Steve Railsback's men were killed one by one. He set up a fire to destroy them, and then he put in an escape pod, but unfortunately, of course, it didn't work. He was lost in his escape pod, while I guess the government or whatever found the ship, got them, took the crystal coffins back with the bodies, and finally the escape pod with Steve Railsback has landed back on Earth. Of course, then I'm thinking, well, why the fuck did it take him longer to get to Earth? Like, how come, did the government go all the way up, grab the coffins, go all the way back, but yeah, it took that fucking long for the escape pod of Steve Railsback to get to Earth? Like, how the hell does that work? It's an escape pod. You left first. You left and should have been on your way to Earth. But yet, they went up and got it, and it took time to figure out, oh shit, something's wrong, and then come back, and then all this shit that's going on, and then Steve Railsback's pod lands. I'm like, is there a sense of timing that I'm missing here? Is there a sense of timing that I'm not really getting here? whatever. And granted, that's a nitpick people are gonna say, but one of the problems I have with the film is the characters are. Well, I don't mind the supporting characters in London. They don't have much to them, but they have a certain air of sophistication. You can tell that these are trained actors and capable actors. But the fact is, Peter Firth's character, there's not much to him other than he's trying to help Steve Railsback and he's a man of action. That's why I think if this character, Peter Firth, if you had Michael Caine or Terrence Stamp or Anthony Hopkins, at least you'd have. To me, I don't know who the hell this guy is, Peter Firth. But to me, those other guys are known actors. They would have brought their own little. That's fucking Terrence Stamp. That's fucking Michael Caine. They would have brought that little bit to it, which would have made me like that character more. Because the character itself is bland. There's really nothing to him. And Steve Railsback, to be honest, his character, his acting, when he has a little bit of emotion, I'm fine with. But a lot of times he's kind of has that blank stare. Has like that blank stare. Has that sort of dry talking to him, and it just. I don't know if it's the way the character's written, because his character has some psychic link to Mathilda May, and then you find out a little bit later on what might have happened on the ship, and maybe he was a little bit more involved than he's letting on. And sometimes he knows what Mathilda May's thinking, but yet sometimes he doesn't. But sometimes he knows what to do, but then sometimes it's blocking him out. That's what I mean. That sometimes it's like the rules are kind of like it gets a little bit overcomplicated with like how far is he with like apparently she got a little bit life energy from him, but he got a little bit from her, and vice versa. It's like, well, how come you can do this, but then you can't do that? Again, that's what I mean by it's kind of like trying to overcomplicate. It's like you're trying to add a little bit too many rules or whatever. And the Steve Railsback character, I don't really end up caring tremendously about him. I didn't hate him because there's some moments I like Steve Railsback that not really a character that I really loved or rooted for. Because his character, at times you're wondering, okay, uh, I know he's a bit confused on what's going on, but at the same time, is he holding something back from telling these other guys? And again, it's like, I don't know, something about his character just wasn't really the most, definitely not the most interesting character, I guess the best way to put it. I think that's two of the big problems with the film is that the characters are not the most interesting. I don't know if that's the writing or the actors you got. But I thought Mathilda May did fine. I thought the other supporting cast. But these two, not really the most interesting. I mean, out of the two, I'd say Peter Firth did better. But Steve Railsback has his good moments, but at the same time, sometimes a little bit dry. I think maybe because, again, the character's written that you find out at a point that he's the one who let her out because maybe I guess he was drawn to her. And he was the one who fucked up the radio, but he didn't want to. But then it's like, well, why didn't he admit this later on? I mean, earlier on, why didn't he tell them earlier on? Or, you know, like what's the? Sometimes you don't know what the. Sometimes I don't know what the hell the deal was with this guy. If he was being controlled by this girl at times, or at times he's just not. And but what kept me interested, the special effects, the interesting story, the way it sort of delves into the vampire mythos. Like you have this older guy played by Frank Finlay, who I don't know how the hell he figured this out. Two of the male vampires he has killed one, and he says, "Oh yeah, you." He has this fucking things for some reason. I don't know. You can say this sort of like sword like thing. It's like, yeah, you something about it's iron and don't put it in the heart, put it like 2 inches below the heart. I'm like, how the fuck do you know this? This isn't. Is this in the vampire mythos that it has to be iron or whatever the fuck? I thought it was a wooden stake. I don't remember. Maybe I'm wrong. And what do you mean, like not the heart, but 2 inches? How the fuck do you know that it'd be 2 inches below? Is there a life force spot or whatever the fuck he said? I'm like, how the fuck do you know that? How the fuck do you know that? Did you read the script beforehand and go, well, it's in the script. That's how. That's what I mean. Like sometimes it's trying to do its rules. I'm like, okay, really? That's okay. I guess that's the rule. But then they're trying to find Mathilda May, and they sort of follow her trail because Steve Railsback has this sort of psychic link to Mathilda May, and they get to the scene where one thing leads to another. They get to his insane asylum. You have Patrick Stewart, and actually Patrick Stewart would have been nice as his character Peter Firth. I think that'd be cool, interesting, different thing for Patrick Stewart. But no, he's sort of the head of this asylum. And they talk to him, and then you find out that actually Mathilda May, her body is hidden somewhere, but she, along with these other two, they can jump from body to body. So she jumped into Patrick Stewart's body, and Steve Railsback's trying to, okay, we gotta drug Patrick Stewart's character so that she's trapped in this body, and then he's trying to find out what's going on, what does she want, this and that, and then you have sort of a weird scene that they do where she's trying to seduce, in a way, Steve Railsback, and sometimes he sees her, then sometimes he sees Patrick Stewart, and it basically ends with Steve Railsback pretty much quickly, like, you see it for a quick bit kissing Patrick Stewart. I'm like, really? Wait, what the fuck? Like, where's this coming from? And they're trying to stop him, and then I like this special effects scene where the room, like, all this shit's spinning in the room, and all these lights are flowing, and Peter Firth gets the drugs and drugs them up, and they have to get him out of there. And they get in this helicopter. And I really like this, again, like I said, I could watch this as a special effects movie and I'd be fine with. Because I really liked what they did with this, where Patrick Stewart and this other guy who got killed during that scene, for all of a sudden their blood starts leaking from their mouths and eyes. Like they're both laying down on stretchers, Patrick Stewart and this, and these two are watching on the helicopter, trying to ride back to tell some folks some stuff. And this blood just starts coming out of their eyes and their nose and their mouths of Patrick Stewart and this other dead guy. And it starts forming over here into like a body. And the way it's done almost like practically. It is like, I just like the way it's done. Like, holy shit. And you see the blood floating through the air and in here. And then you see Mathilda May sort of form. And then her entire body is covered with blood or made of blood. And then she screams and then puddles to the floor. They're like, oh shit, she escaped. That was her, I guess, her form of escape. Which I don't, because I'm watching that saying I'd be doing the same thing there, but like, what's Steve Railsback and why do I want, yeah, Peter Firth. I'd be having the same reaction, like, what the fuck? Like, that was his reaction. I was watching this, like, wow, what the fuck? Then you get to the third act, which is kind of where the film kind of goes a little bit off course, because then you find out that the other one male vampire has been killed. The other has been, I guess, having some fun in London, and so now London's kind of become a bit of a war zone. And granted, they spent money on this film. The money's on the screen, and you see miniatures and bits of London being blown up, and lots of people are being, I don't want to say infected, but turned into these creatures. And they're like, oh, we gotta find her. And then this is what I'm talking about Steve Railsback. Like, now all of a sudden he knows what she wants. And I'm like, when did you know about this? What, it just popped in your head now? And why didn't it pop in your head later? Or earlier, I should say? And that's another thing. You also have another scene where they think it's in one girl's body. And Steve Railsback is like, she wants me to force her to talk. She's a masochist. And she's like, really sort of ready to smack on this woman. And I'm like, do we really need that scene? Do we really need that scene? I don't know. And the end of the third act, like, okay, so Steve Railsback now knows what's going on. And a lot of stuff he's explaining, I'm like, okay, really? Again, it's kind of like they're putting rule upon rule upon rule on these space vampires. And apparently the spaceship on top is now over London, or kind of over where London will be. I mean, it's in space, but it's over, by London. And that what the male vampire is doing. He's causing this ruckus, and now folks upon folks are fucking with each other's life force, and then this beam of light is going to the spaceship, and Steve Railsback's like, oh, it's their souls, and it's... I never really get the idea what the fuck was the point of the space vampires. Like, they're going up to the ship. Is it powering the ship to do something? Is it powering the ship, and if it gets enough power, it's going to fuck up the entire world? Because the military has quarantined the place, and they're ready to drop a nuclear explosion and stuff in that. Are they getting enough life force to leave? Or to fuck up the entire world, I guess? Or what's Mathilda May? I guess she needs Steve Railsback as the final puzzle. Needs the life force she gave to him back, I guess. Because he goes off and, Peter Firth's like, wait a minute, and follows after him. And Peter Firth, again, a lot of stuff going on where, you have this bus that explode, you have all these people, again, good makeup effects. Some of them are sort of mummified, zombified, living corpse type things, Peter Firth goes to the old guy, Frank Finlay, and then Frank Finlay talks about how he killed this guy and what you need to do, and oh yeah, that girl, she's at the cathedral. Then his face starts bubbling up in a pretty good makeup effect. But then, like, his life force escapes and he's all of a sudden dead. And I'm like, so wait a minute, how come some of these people on the ground, like, apparently for them, if they get a little bit of life force and then they're okay, then in a little bit they... First off, unless it's those main three vampires, they couldn't jump from one body to the other mind-like, telepathically. But then they're going from one to the other, and then they only do it a bit of time before they have to do it again. So it's kind of like just a temporary. It won't maintain. So my point is, how come when this old guy, he falls down, so his life force, like shitload of life force, explodes from his body, how come he burns, but no one else is? Is... Because you see other people draining other people's life force, but then they're just... How come this old guy didn't turn into another zombie, or whatever the fuck you want to call it? How come he didn't just turn to that? But I guess, for some reason, it was enough, and the life force just exploded on him, so he died, and I'm like... Maybe it's explained in the movie, but that's what I mean. It's kind of like getting some of these rules mixed up. I'm like, what? That's what I mean. They kind of, to me, maybe I overcomplicate myself. I kind of overcomplicate things. And also, okay, they're like, okay, if we stop the other male vampire and the lead vampire, it'll be okay. And I'm like, so is this one of those things that, if you kill the head vampire, the others are going to go back to normal? What does it matter killing the male vampire and the lead girl? How's that going to stop all these 50 to 500 other things sort of getting one life force to another? How's it going to stop them? Just one still getting life force from the other, and vice versa. How's that going to stop just by killing these two? Because I don't remember them specifying, oh, if we kill the lead, then they'll just be gone. Because I know sometimes they do that in vampire films, where if you kill the lead vampire, the other will be normal. I think they do that with the Fright Night remake. Or even the original Fright Night, I should say. Because Charlie Brewster's girlfriend. But they didn't really specify that in this film. But either way, Colin Firth is going through the crowds, and then London's being all fucked up, and things are exploding. And, he's shooting some of them. He kills the male vampire. He gets in. This dude's real bad with the girl, and Colin Firth's calling to him. And Steve Railsback reaches up, throws him the big sword. He stabs both of them. Steve Railsback. And then they both sort of turn the energy and go back to the ship. But they're not dead. They just go back to the ship, and then the ship just heads back to Halley's Comet, and the movie ends. I'm like, so that girl ain't even dead? Are they going to come back? This is leaving room for Lifeforce 2? Are they dying? Are they going to come back? Are they... Like, if she's not dead, how is London safe? What about all the other people who, like, oh, okay, here's my temporary fix, let me get this life force, and then I'm going to go to another person to take their life force. How are they now not... How are they're not affected now just because the spaceship's leaving and shit? And, you know... That's what I mean, like, I don't really... It would have worked if, to me, Steve Railsback, okay, kills them both, the energy comes back and blows up the ship. Boom, they're dead, they're gone. And then maybe you could put 2 cents in, okay, because she's dead, for some reason it doesn't affect them now, or whatever, I don't know. Just that's what I mean. It kind of, there's some shit that didn't make sense to me. Maybe someone will explain it, I don't know. But I know it seems like I'm ranting on the film. I don't mean to rant but there are problems with the film, especially I think in the third act. The story kind of just gets off the rails, and it's like, where the fuck is it going now? And kind of overcomplicates things a little bit too much. I'm like, wait a minute, what about that? And what about that? And also, these two characters are not the most interesting. Like Peter Firth, you don't really know anything about the character. You really don't. And Steve Railsback, I don't know if it's just the way they wrote the character, or just sometimes with Steve Railsback it was just too dry, it was kind of too boring. But when he had a little bit of energy, I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe it was how it was written, I don't know. But I still enjoy this film for a number of reasons. Again, I like the story, I like the idea of mixing. It went for the rooftops, and maybe it didn't succeed 100%, but I appreciate the effort. I like the idea of the space vampires, vampires and sci-fi sort of melding together. I like a lot of special effects, being out in space. Oh yeah, another special effect I really liked was when Peter Firth kills the male vampire. Before he completely dies, he changes into one of those bat-like creatures, and it's a practical effect. Giant bat-like creature. It's a practical effect, and I really liked the look of it. It's a practical effect. I'm like, why can't they do this shit today? And I liked it. And then it blows up, and I'm like, alright. That's what I mean. I had to watch this. I was never bored with this film. I was entertained. That's the bottom line. If you wonder, well, how come you like this but not that? This film did not bore me. I was entertained. It kept me interested. Sometimes I'm like, huh, really? And it definitely a good special effects film. I really enjoy special effects. I like the life force, how one goes to the other and one sort of mummifies and the other uh, like and the blood scene where the blood is out of Patrick Stewart and the other guy and it forms to Mathilda May, or all the carnage. Well, carnage is the wrong word because it's not like you see tons of blood and guts, but miniatures and explosions you see at the end of the film. I like the spaceship shots at the beginning of the film. To use some models. Granted, the Haley Comet itself looks a little bit fake now, but I like the rest of the stuff. I like inside the ship with the dead bat-like creatures, and then again the scene when the male vampire's dying, you see the bat-like creature. I like that. I even like the life force energy flaunt. I know some people say that's dated, but I like the way it looks. Just my kind of special effect. I like that. I just like the way it looks. I like the score by Henry Mancini. Then the supporting cast, like Frank Finlay and Peter Firth. He was not terrible in acting. He was not terrible. It's just a little bit bland. You could give him a bit more to do, or at least give it like Michael Caine, Terrence Stamp, Anthony Hopkins, an actor who can bring a little bit more to it. Steve Railsback, kind of hard for me to root for him. Wasn't really a character. At the end of the day, almost. There's little bits of him that I cared about, but at the same time, Mathilda May, I thought she was good. She was very hot. But there's a lot more that I liked to this film. I can say I did overall enjoy this film. It was definitely an interesting idea, and I liked a lot of the execution. Really great to watch special effects wise. It kept my interest. Does it succeed 100%? In my opinion, no. But it was definitely a valiant effort, and I definitely at least give kudos to that. At the end of the day, I can say I do enjoy the film. I do like the film. I definitely put it in the list of. If there's Tobe Hooper list of ones I like and one I dislike, I put this in the like pile, along with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2, and Poltergeist, which I know. To me, this is not in the pile of Eaten Alive. Eaten Alive I thought sucked. Crocodile, whatever the fuck movie you did, I thought that movie sucked. Mortuary sucked. But The Mangler I do like, so I put that in there. But yeah, overall, I do like the film. I do like this film. I definitely like it more than I did the first time. I think because I really enjoyed the special effects, and I really enjoyed the idea, the sci-fi mixed with this vampire mythos. It's definitely an interesting film. Maybe it doesn't succeed 100%, and maybe you just say the script or whatever it is, but I think it's definitely worth at least one watch. And so I know Mike DeFool is not a rant. I'm sorry. I don't hate this film. I was actually entertained by this film. I was never bored. And at the end of the day, even if the film's not perfect, I just want to be entertained. And I was definitely entertained with this film. Again, I also want, again, another mention for Patrick Stewart. I kind of wish his role, I kind of wish he was the Peter Firth role. Like he was one of the main guys. I really do. Because I like Patrick Stewart. And little bits, I'm like, oh, cool, he's there. I like Patrick Stewart. But, you know. Either way, thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you later.